Now, 2023 self-care wisdom comes in very directly, very simply with this one word, decision. And the message says, sometimes the best decision is no decision at all. Now, when I reflect upon the imagery here and I see the scales and I see the sun and the moon, I'm feeling again the balance between two opposites, two things as in light and shadow, as in yin, yang, doing, being, masculine, feminine, polar opposites, or the duality of two things. And this is very connected in as well with the chariot energy, where we see traditionally the black and the white sphinx, representing the balance in those things. And so decision, the self-care wisdom of talking about these scales and finding this balance between this aspects of self and other, of service and also receiving. So we have these different acts of striking a balance or recalibrating the scales. So I could see how this energy ties in with all of the other altar elements that have come forward for our support collectively for 2023. Scheduling ourselves in, as Ocean Jasper says, overcoming any obstacles, deciding if the juice is worth the squeeze to be ramming our head up against a wall or to be going, full steam ahead, pedal to the metal, tearing forward, or are we sort of checking in with ourselves, recalibrating, making sure that everything is in alignment before we start to accelerate. Decision comes in showing us these two scales, and it reminds me again of that scheduling ourselves in. If we can't find 5 minutes, give ourselves 10. Sometimes when we see scales that are imbalanced, we automatically think that we have to add more to the side that is lacking. But another thing that's possible is for us to lighten the load on the side that is heavier. We can remove, scale back. So looking at those scales and thinking about making some decisions about how we use our time, our energy, who we give our attention to. Here for self-care, I feel a nod to, aspects of our lives that have become very automated, very digitized, very much online, very much social media energy, being in that virtual world versus in the physical world and engaging out in nature, in person with people, and sort of getting back to perhaps a recalibration of the distribution of how those things are happening. So much of our life has become automated and contact free, and there's a certain degree of anonymity, if I'm saying that right, of being able to stay detached or at an arm's length from true human connection. And I think that, this is coming forward as a very specific message for me now as I look at these scales and I see, decisions that we've been making in terms of how we distribute our energy, the commodity, the precious commodity of our attention, and what has happened to our attention span and our ability to engage in all different types of activities as a result, and sort of reclaiming that, recalibrating the scales, taking back from perhaps that side of excess. If you feel that pull, to feel into that and see how you are distributing your energy. So it doesn't just have to be in the realm of, virtual versus in real life, in reality. But that's one way that I'm seeing that it can show up for us. And then, this premise of sometimes the best decision is no decision at all, really taking time to sit with it. That feels like in a digitized world, in an instant world, in a world of instant gratification, there's a lot of pressure that we always have to be on. We always have to be responding, the idea that if it comes as a text message, we have to answer right away, versus that we can sit with something, that we can feel into it, that we can take time to reflect. And that's actually okay. Even though it may have been normalized that we feel this urgency, this sense of having to respond. And it's funny because it kind of leads into our next and final card. We don't have to do that. Sometimes the best decision is no decision at all, just sitting with something. So being a little bit more deliberate, being a little bit more thoughtful, reflective even. That's a pretty specific message. And I kind of took that to my own interpretation, but like bring that out into your life and think about it through the lens of self-care wisdom. If I'm caring for myself, if I'm making time for myself, if I'm scheduling myself in, am I feeling this very heavy pull that I have to be on all the time and responding to people in real time all the time? And I would say no, that the answer should feel like I can release the tension on that rubber band a bit. I can give a little from that side of the scale to redistribute some of the load. So feel into that and see how that may come forward for you in the realm of self-care wisdom for 2023.